So yesterday we went over these notes right here, and we learned a really long way of factoring a quadratic trinomial. We went over several examples, but then we showed you a shortcut. The long way is essential when you're trying to factor something like this, right? When the a value is not 1, you need the long way. You can't use the shortcut. Let's flip this over, please, to the back side. On the back side, it actually says day 2. This is where we are continuing factoring. And it has also all the notes that you need, the multi-step for the long method. It also says that the shortcut works when a equals 1. So we have more practice using that shortcut. Tomorrow's quiz, you don't need to use the long method unless you want to do the bonus question. There's a bonus question on tomorrow's quiz. But the only type of factoring you need to know how to do is pulling out the GCF and using the shortcut when you have a quadratic trinomial when the a value is 1. So there's a lot of practice here. Let's just do the odd ones. Let's do this together, please. So because the a value is 1, we could jump right into the answer format h and h. And then after that, all you do is think, what times what is 27? What times what is 27 that if you add together is 12?
9 times 3.
And if you don't see it right off the bat, go ahead and make a list. Like, how could you get 27? Well, 1 times 27. Then you try 2. 2 times something? No, it doesn't work. How about 3? 3 times 9. And right there when you're adding them, right, 1 plus 27 is 28. That's not 28. 3 and 9 is 12. That's it. You're done. So take that 3, take that 9, plug it right in there. And you're done. Let's move on to number 3 here. Set up your answer format. What times what is negative 60 that if you add together is 4? If you don't see it right off the bat, go ahead and make a list. Start with the number 1, or in this case, negative 1, because you want it to be a negative 60 after all. So negative 1 times 60, negative 2 times 30, negative 3 times 20, negative 4 times 15, negative 5 times 12, negative 6 times 10. Yes. So make a list, and if you struggle with multiplication, when you start making this list, all you have to do, like, you write negative 1, 60, obviously. Negative 2, you could do, like, on the calculator, 60 divided by negative 2, it'll give you the answer 30. 60 divided by negative 3, it'll give you the answer 20. That way you can make this list even if you don't know multiplication all that great. So which pair of numbers combines together to give us the middle value 4? Negative 6 and positive 10. If I combine those, it really does give me the b value, which is positive 4. So I don't need to change any signs. That's my factored form right there. Y minus 6 and y plus 10. Let's move on to number 5. Let's set up the answer format. Z. What times what is 30 that if I add together is negative 11? Let's make a list. How can I get 30? 1 times 30. 2 times what? 15. 3 times 10. 4 doesn't work. 5 times 6. So which pair of numbers combines together? 5 and 6, right? Now 5 and 6 combines together to give 11, and we want that. Yeah, we want the b value to be negative 11. The b value is negative 11, which means we want this 5 and 6 to combine to give us that negative 11. So we have the right numbers. We just have the wrong signs. Change those signs. Does that make sense? So plug in that minus 5, plug in that minus 6, and you're done. Let's go to number 7 here. Answer format, XX. What times what is negative 55? You have negative 1 times 55. Negative 2, nope. 3, nope. Negative 5 times 11. And right there it is. Negative 5 and 11, when I add that together, it gives me 6. And the b value is 6, but it's not just 6, it's negative 6. So I have the right numbers, I just have the wrong signs, so change them. Instead of a minus 5, make it a plus 5. Instead of a positive 11, make it a negative 11. So those are the right pair of numbers. Let's put the plus 5 right in here and the minus 11 right in there. And that's it. What do you think? Easy, right? Too easy, so I'm not even going to do the even ones. You guys could handle that. Over here, we have equations. Check this out. We have a quadratic equation. Quadratic equation. and we need to solve it. Now, normally when I say solve an equation, you want to get x by itself on one side, but the problem is x squared and x, those are two different types of x's, right? You can't combine them. So what we want to do is, first of all, set it equal to 0. That way we could use zero product property to split them and solve. Do you guys remember zero product property? Anybody? Like, here, let me, let's go over here to the side. Like, zero product property, if I had x plus 2 in parentheses times x minus 3 in parentheses, and they were equal to 0, the zero product property allows me to split them and solve and get two simple answers. What are the simple answers to this?
The first one would be 0, right?
What are the answers? X equals what?
0.
Oh gosh, we forgot zero product property.
0, x minus 3 equals 0.
So the two answers are?
2 and x.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, 2 and 3. 2 and negative 3.
X equals 0, the first answer?
Okay. No, guys,
I have to actually work it out.
let's review this, all right?
-2.
When you have something times something and it equals 0, the first something could be equal to 0. So this x plus 2, that could be equal to 0. And then the second something could also be equal to 0. So x minus 3 could also be equal to 0. And zero product property allows us to split them and create two simple equations that you could easily solve. So what are the two answers? -2. +3. Those are the two answers. I thought we would remember that, but if you forgot, I hope now you know, right? Zero product property is amazing. It's super easy. So if you have it in factored form, all you have to do is split it and solve when it's equal to 0. So when they tell us solve this equation, the first thing you should be thinking is, let me set this equal to 0. So we would subtract 5x. It'd cancel out. Then that's how you got the 0 down here. And what you do to one side, you do to the other side. But when you subtract 5x over here, you can't really subtract 5x from x squared or from 36. So you just rewrite it in standard form in order. So we have x squared minus 5x minus 36. That's what we have. Now we recognize that it's a quadratic trinomial in standard form with the a value being 1, which means we could now set up this situation to do the shortcut on factoring. And think what times what is -36, that if I add together is -9. And that obviously is -9 and 4. And then, now that it's factored, you could take both of these binomials, split them, set them each equal to 0, and solve, and get your two answers of +9 and -4. That's how they get the answers, +9, -4. This is an example that I gave you, including all the detailed steps. So, let's go down to some of these examples. Again, I'll do the odd ones, because I believe they're pretty easy. See, it's an equation, and the only difference between a couple of minutes ago and now is that I need to solve. So it's an extra step. Before it was just factor, and we're still doing that. So let's look at the left side of the equal sign. Let's factor it because there is no a value out here in the front, which means I could jump right into the answer format. P right there, shortcut time, right? What times what is -84 that if you combine together is +5? If we don't know, let's make a list of -80 or the multiples of -84. So -1 times 84, -2 times 22, -3 times. Could somebody get a calculator, please? On the calculator, go ahead and do 84 divided by 3. 28. So on the calculator, we did 84 divided by 3. We got 28. So I know that 3 times 28 is 84. Okay. How about -4? If you do that on the calculator, 84 divided by 4, what do we get? 21, right? Divided by 5 is not going to work. How about divided by 6? 84 divided by 6?
14.
14? How about 84 divided by 7? No. 84 divided by 8? 84 divided by 9?
13.
7 times 7 works, right? On the calculator, 84 divided by 7 is 12. And ladies and gentlemen, that's about it. So I hope we understand the method of using the calculator even, right? When you're making this list, all you got to do is take that big number and try to divide it by 2. Well, that should have been a 42, huh? My bad. Should have used a calculator. So with the calculator, just divide 84 by 2 and you get 42. Divide 84 by 3 and you get 28. So you can make this list with the calculator. You don't have to know that 4 times 21 is 84. Anyway, out of all those different pairs of numbers, which combine together to give you 5? Negative 7 and 12. And negative 7 plus 12 really is positive 5, and the b value is positive 5, so I don't have to change any signs. I just put a minus 7 there and a plus 12 there. And if you put that as your answer, it's going to be wrong, because this is an equation that you need to solve. So far, all you've done is factored it. So it's still an equation. It's still equal to 0. Now we're going to use zero product property to split them and solve. So if you have something times something and it equals 0, you could take that first something, p minus 7, and set it equal to 0. You could take the second something, p plus 12, set it equal to 0, and you solve both, which means that your two answers are going to be p equals what? Positive 7, and p equals negative 12. Those are your two answers. That's what you're going to write on your answer column on tomorrow's quiz. So really not doing anything new today. You're still factoring a quadratic trinomial with the shortcut because the a value is 1. The only additional step is what we did already yesterday and the day before, the zero product property. You take something, split them. It makes the complicated looking equation become two simple equations. You get your two answers and you're done. Let's try another, 11. What's the first thing I should do right here on number 11?
Parentheses.
I can't really start factoring. Why? Because it's not a quadratic trinomial that's set equal to 0. It's a quadratic, but I have that minus 60 on the other side. Remember, the only reason we want to factor is to be able to get something times something equals 0. That way you could split them and solve. Exactly. Let's get rid of that minus 60 first by going plus 60 and plus 60. And you can't really add 60, so you're just going to rewrite the whole thing. It's going to be h squared minus 17h plus 60. And now we have the equal 0. So now we could say, let's factor and then split it and then solve it. So because the a value is 1, we could jump right into the answer format, h, and then think what times what is 60 that if I add together is negative 17. So if you don't see it right off the top of your head, make a list. Obviously 1 times 60 is 60, 2 times 30, 3 times, and if you're struggling, use a calculator. 60 divided by 3 is 20, 60 divided by 4 on a calculator is 15, 60 divided by 5 is 12. 60 divided by 6 is 10. So those are all the possible multiples of 60. So which pair of numbers combines together to give us the middle value, negative 17?
5 times 12.
5 times 12. Now, 5 times 12 really is 60, but if I combine those, it gives me a positive 17, and I want it to be a negative 17. So a negative 5 and a negative 12 is the correct pair of numbers we want. So put that minus 5 right there and the minus 12 right there. And now that we've factored it, we're simply going to split them and solve. So h minus 5, that could equal 0. H minus 12, that could equal 0. And even though you know the answers already, I still want to see this work on tomorrow's quiz. You could skip that last step. H equals positive 5, that's the answer. H equals positive 12, that's the answer. And that's about it. Let's do number 13 here. What do I do? Minus 18a? Minus 18a.
And then rewrite it.
And then rewrite it. Now, how are we going to rewrite it?
A plus a squared plus or negative minus
A squared minus 18a, and then plus 80 equals 0. You guys see how we took these three terms and we put them in standard form? We put them in order. First, we put the highest exponent term first, then the variable middle term, and then the constant at the end. Now that it's in standard form, now we could think about factoring, splitting, and solving. A and A. Okay, what times what is 80 that if you add together is negative 18? Okay, so a lot of us already know that it's 8 and 10, right? Negative 8 and negative 10. So if you already see it, you don't have to make the list. Just make sure that if you're thinking 8 times 10, recognize that the middle value is negative 18, so that would have to be a negative 8 and a negative 10. Put that minus 8 right there, the minus 10 right there, and now you could split them and solve. And even though I know that you already know the answers, let's show our work and write a minus 8 equals 0, a minus 10 equals 0. Then you could give me your two answers. A equals what? Positive 8, and A equals positive 10. That's it. Those are your two answers. Okay, guys, so we should be ready for this worksheet. Now, 8.6, half of the quiz is coming from here. And 8.6 is the easiest, I think, because on every single question on this worksheet, every single one, you could use a shortcut. Every single one. Doesn't matter which one you pick, right? If you pick 13, for example, it's a quadratic trinomial. They ask you to factor. All the a values are 1, so you could use a shortcut on every single one of these. Q, Q. What times what is negative 56 that if you combine together is negative 1? That would be a negative 8 times a positive 7. Done. Right? Done. If you need to make a list, go for it. I recommend making a list, right? But on every single one of these, you're going to be able to use the shortcut. What times what is the C value that if you combine together is the B value? Now, notice that this is pretty much divvied up into 2 pieces. The first half is just factoring. The second half is solving. So we went over that in our notes. Look at the second half. You're also going to be able to use a shortcut on any one, right? So, sure, pick one.
22.
22.
Because I guess.
Okay, 22. So that one already has it equal to 0, so you could jump right into the shortcut factoring. B equals 0. What times what is negative 64 that if we add together is negative 12? And if we don't see it right off the top of our heads, let's make a list. So like negative 1 times 64, negative 2 times 32, negative 3, that doesn't work. Negative 4 times 16, yes? 16, I think. On a calculator, go 64 divided by 4, it should be 16. Okay, and that's the correct combo right there. If we combine negative 4 and 16, we'll get 12. And we know we want it to be a negative 12. So all we have to do is change the signs. We have the right numbers, we just have the wrong signs. So plus 4 minus 16, plus 4 minus 16. Now you could split them because zero product property. This one times this one equals 0. Make this one equal to 0. Make this one equal to 0. So b plus 4 equals 0. B minus 16 equals 0. Give me the answers. B is negative 4. B equals 16. Done. So this entire worksheet is cake. Please do it. And before we leave, I'll let you know exactly what's going to be on tomorrow's quiz. But half of it's coming from here.